All right, good morning, good afternoon. What's new in adapted physical education podcast listeners? Happy to be bringing you our 14th episode today. And we have a two-section one. And we talked about collaboration between AP teachers and from district to district, and collaboration with the IEP team, and a few other subjects within today's podcast. So super excited to be bringing it to you. It's two people that I know locally, Gobin Johnson and Heather Katz, and we'll be meeting them in a moment. As well as I did want to give you a quick update on something I got a really special chance to participate in about 2 weeks ago. I am the director of Capabilities Michigan near Detroit, and I got invited by Dr. Lauren Lieberman to go to a Capabilities Summit a few weeks ago, and it was just such a terrific thing. We got to go to a city outside of Salt Lake City. It was so beautiful to be there, and I met so many people that run Capabilities from throughout the nation, and it was so inspiring to hear everyone's stories about how they've started their camp, what they're doing at their camps, and events like that to me just really, it's a collaborative piece which goes into today's episode, but it not only gives you such good content knowledge that you get to walk away from and know how to better implement things and fundraise and program, but it also it inspires you to know that people are doing these things out of the goodness of their heart most of the time. And it really just tells you what it means to be in our field at times, that there's so many different people and so many different reasons to be out there promoting what we do, and to hear so many different people's opinions and what they're going through is just an amazing thing. So anyways, I just want to share one quote on collaboration that I found from Helen Keller. You all know who Helen Keller is, a political activist, the first person who was deaf and blind to earn their bachelor's degree. She said, "Alone we can do so very little, but together we can do so very much." And I just thought that was a nice segue into what we're going to talk about today, in collaboration, and how important that is in our field, that we collaborate not only with people in our department, with people all over. All right. So I like to say that I have Gobin Johnson here and Heather Katz, and we have Denton ISD and then Allen ISD, and we're in the North Texas area. Okay. And so I'll do an introduction later, but it will flow into it a little bit. So first off, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I know Gobin and Heather from my doctoral programs here at Texas Women's University. Gobin is going through the master's program, something similar to what I went through a few years ago back in Michigan. But Gobin's teaching for how long?
This is my 18th year teaching.
Third year teaching AP. So what did you do before that?
I was athletic coordinator, taught general PE and a partners PE class that paired partners with students with disabilities.
And partner PE is not something in Michigan that's too common. At least it's an idea sometimes, but we're not actually seeing it in action. So something that maybe we can touch on in a little while. And we also have Heather Katz here, who I also know, she is a recent graduate from the master's program. Was it last year?
Yeah, last August.
Last August, and she works in the Denton ISD, which is the ISD that TWU located, same area. And we run a Friday practicum for our undergrad students, and we have some of Heather's students, or had them.
We used to, yeah.
And they would come in, and the AP teachers came in and would assist us. So welcome as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. All right, so We're going to talk today a little bit about, we have two different APE teachers from two different districts. We have Allen ISD and Denton ISD. And Goban, I don't even know how close Allen is. How far away is that?
We're about 50 miles, 45 to 50 miles from here.
Okay, that's pretty far.
Yeah.
So then the point that I think is interesting is that we have two APE teachers within the same geographical regional area, but then we have two people that collaborate between districts. And I don't think that's something that happens too often. I know when I taught, I didn't do that. I didn't talk to people in the district next to me. And I know I should have, but let's talk a little bit about that collaboration piece, and we'll dive a little bit more into your AP program specifically, and then also maybe how you collaborate with other people that are in your IEP teams or on your teams. They don't have to be in your IEP teams. It can be there's all types of teams. You always label it in the IEP team. Goban, I'm going to ask you first. So what populations of students are you working with in your?
I work with any and every population within my district that would need my services in adapted PE. So anything from intellectual disabilities to kids with multiple severe disabilities, medically fragile, students with autism at all ends of the spectrum. Anything basically that comes to my district that are on my caseload. I am the only APE teacher, so if they're receiving APE service, it does come across my desk at some point.
When you say you're the only APE teacher, do you mean in the district or in your school?
In the district.
Wow.
I am the APE deliverer for the entire district.
So when you say deliverer, does that mean that you are direct service or are you a consultant model?
I do a combination. Probably more than half of my service is consultant model with PE teachers and paraprofessionals, instructional assistants, but the rest, probably 40% of my service is direct, where I will go in and work directly with the kid, either in a pull-out service, if that's what's best for them, all the way to basically co-teaching a little bit with part of the class.
Very cool. And Heather, so what type of students are you working with on a regular basis?
Same as Goban, I got a wide range of students. I work with some other professionals in my district with our severe kids in a motor sensory lab is what we call it. So that's a big way we get to collaborate. So I have those kids on my caseload, and I also have the higher functioning kids, a little bit of everything. And in Denton, we provide more direct services rather than consult. We do have some consult, but we're pretty fortunate that we get to work directly with our kids either once a week, once every other week.
I got a few questions on that, Heather. First, can you expand upon what does that motor sensory room look like? What are you doing in there?
Well, the motor sensory lab are PTs, OTs, me and VI, O&M, AT. Who else is on that team? Obviously, the special ed teacher and the paraprofessionals. Every Tuesday, we call it Terrific Tuesday. We all get together and provide them with different activities. A lot of the times the OTs are working on using buttons for communication and different sort of assistive technology types of things. But I get to play a big role in planning all the activities. And we recently took that group to the pool for the first time, so a lot of them got to experience that. And just getting those experiences, we brought in a professional square dance caller, and that was really neat for them to experience. And I think the teachers had more fun with that than the kids. But a few of the kids had a lot of fun too. But just providing them with all sorts of opportunities, trying to make them smile.
And then I had one other question off what you said, Heather. And you said that you get the privilege, I'm paraphrasing, you get to do more direct service than consultant, and you feel lucky about that.
Yes.
And that's my experience. Consulting is not what I've really ever done. I've always done direct service. And Goban, you said that you're half and half right now. And I would just like to ask, I think that's a really interesting point that you're bringing up. Why do you prefer direct service?
I feel like I can make the most change with my background as the gross motor specialist, I guess you could call it. I feel like I can give them that one-on-one attention and actually work with them on particular skills and allow them to be successful. And I'm already consulting with all of my general PE teachers anyway, even if they're not technically, the kids aren't on consult services. So I just feel like I get to add that extra little step and give them one-on-one attention.
And Govan, what do you think about that?
I would agree. Working directly with the kids is, I think, what all of us in this profession would prefer to do. And I have increased over my 3 years working on this job the amount of time that I spend directly with the kids on direct service delivery. There's a certain point when you have to look at how you can best deliver as much to the kids as you possibly can across an entire district when you're looking at least one kid on 20 different campuses. And unfortunately, time during the day, time when the kids are in school, when they're in PE class, doesn't lend itself when you're spread that thin to working directly with every kid. I would always prefer to work directly with my kids rather than showing someone else what to do or how to modify or adapt activities in a classroom. Although that is generally what I think we all want to see happen, is we want our direct service to end up being with giving that kid more independence in the general education curriculum. And that at least should be what our aim is. But I do feel like working directly with the kid would be getting us to that point a lot quicker.
Then sometimes just consulting
because then it's consulting. A lot of times you are fixing a problem after the fact, after it's become a problem or something's not working, and it takes you longer to fix that than it does if you're working directly with the kid, because you see it's not working and now you just fix it on the spot. Whereas, consult, you got to rely on somebody else to fulfill what you consulted on, deliver the programming, and let you know in a timely manner, hopefully, if something's not working or if it needs to be changed.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And our general PE teachers, they have 50 or 50 plus kids in a class at a time. They can't reasonably focus on our kids, just one or two kids in a class. So getting that hands-on attention is just so important.
All right, so going back to, thanks for indulging me on that. So going back to the collaboration piece. So you said, Govan, that you're almost 50 miles away, or around 50 miles away from Heather's ISD, or her base school. So how often are you able to collaborate with one another?
Well, since I've been still in the master's program up here at TWU and traveling up here weekly, we collaborate a lot more often than probably as usual for two teachers separated by such a distance, just because I have to come to town in the evenings once or twice a week where she's located. So it makes it a lot easier for us to get together for 30 minutes, an hour, talk about what she's doing in her programming, what I'm doing in my programming, bounce ideas off of each other. We also touch base with other APE teachers within her district. And that gives us an opportunity to keep going forward and feed off of each other and the enthusiasm that we both have for what we're doing and where our careers are going in the future. So.
And we are both fortunate to be able to play a role in our state organization in Tayford, and that's another great place to get excited about things and an opportunity to collaborate. And we've presented together and plan to do even more in the future with that.
So, you said that you had this opportunity to collaborate with one another between districts. So what are the things that are coming out of that collaboration?
Well, like Heather said, we've already done a presentation at the state annual conference here in Texas this past year. We are actually set to meet again next Monday to talk about putting presentation proposals together to present at Missouri's state conference, hopefully. We just started this week a virtual bocce tournament between our districts. It's something that they had started in their district last year, inter-district or intramurals within their district, And I thought that sounded like such a good idea. I took it upon myself to try to create a inter-district deal. So we're competing Denton ISD versus Allen ISD bocce skills this year. And next year we plan on, my idea is to include several more districts with friends that I've made in AP field. So we'll hopefully have 3 or 4 more next year for a total of 5 to 6 schools doing this collaborative, competitive bocce skills tournament.
You blew me away on that one. That's awesome. I heard about the bocce virtual one you were doing. It was on Google Docs, correct? And people are keeping score through schools. So now you're expanding upon that idea.
Yeah, and the great thing about the virtual tournaments is not only does this opportunity to get to reach more kids, but it doesn't, as long as you have the bocce equipment, it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to pay to transport the kids anywhere, and they get that competitive experience right in their own classroom.
And bocce equipment's relative. We're APE teachers, so we adapt and overcome as we have to.
Yes,
If we don't have the real equipment, we use other things. So it's very flexible.
There was a partner PE teacher last year that used yarn balls, which I wouldn't recommend, but you use what you got.
So it's a great game. I love bocce just for that reason. But you kind of explained it already with that. How does this collaboration uniquely affect your consulting or direct service with your students? But the point you just made was really great. Is there any additional ways?
It helps me make sure that I'm thinking outside of the box and looking for other opportunities for all of the kids I service, whether it's through direct service or consulting service. This last weekend, our regional service center hosted kinetic games, which is just a sampling of different sporting events for kids with physical impairments. So just the collaboration that I have with other APE teachers and the Denton ISD APE teachers in particular, it helps me stay on top of what's available out there, what others are doing, what they're taking their kids to, what they would like to take their kids to. So that makes me go seek out those opportunities. And this year we had from Allen, we had 5 kids attend the games this year that stayed pretty much all day and sampled 6, 7 different sports that they may have never been exposed to or may never have been exposed to just going to a regular physical education curriculum because of their physical disabilities. A lot of times they get left out of those opportunities.
All right. Now I want to ask a little bit more about the collaboration piece within some other areas. So you're collaborating with one another, which I think is great. Between districts, it's not common, really. Were you doing it before you were doing it at TW, collaborating between districts?
I did, not as much as I'm doing now, but I did collaborate with other people. I reached out to people because when I moved from being an athletic coordinator of a middle school campus in my district to a full-time adapted PE teacher, I knew that I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to do the best I could for all of my students. And the fear is that you're not going to. So I started immediately seeking out opportunities. I was on the internet. I was looking for as many resources as I could find about how to do my job. What should I expect of my job? What should I expect of myself and my kids? Which then led me to reaching out to the university, which, I've been here for 2 years now, part-time, working on another master's degree. So I've collaborated with professors here at the university. I've reached out to other districts. I've reached out to our regional service center APE consultants down close to my district. So yes, I've done a lot of consulting with other teachers, collaboration with other teachers and districts. But I have found that Denton ISD and the TW area have adapted PE teachers that have the same outlook that I do, and so it makes it so much easier to collaborate consistently and move all of our kids forward.
How are you collaborating as well? How are you reaching out to outside agencies or organizations in your area? Actually just yesterday I met with Denton Parks and Rec because one of my
major priorities is to establish a relationship with them and provide opportunities for our kids outside of the school day. Because a lot of the times when you're trying to create programs in a district, there's a lot of barriers to it, and there's less barriers when you're working with those outside agencies. So we're looking into creating wheelchair sport programs there, and we're talking about implementing this summer a 2 or 3 day outdoor pursuits camp for any kid with a disability. So hopefully we're gonna be able to get on that and get the word out there and get some kids involved in that. And with that camp, we're gonna see what our kids are interested in, and hopefully be able to develop a whole fishing program through Parks and Rec, or maybe hiking. Where I know my colleague Linda Hilgenbrink, she's one of the other AP specialists in Denton. She really wants to start a cycling camp, because our kids, our parents, that's the one thing they ask for every year is, I want my kid to be able to ride a bike. So if we can create that relationship with Parks and Rec where we can implement a program like that, it would benefit our kids immensely.
I got a follow-up question to that. How do you find these agencies to then make, like, I mean, how does it initially start? How do you first start that relationship?
Well, for me, I'm also a group exercise instructor, and I've taught at a bunch of different Parks and Rec organizations. So I know what they're capable of providing. And when I first started in Denton, I immediately reached out to them, and I started up a Zumba class for kids with disabilities that I'm doing through them now, and that kind of sparked their interest in providing more adaptive rec programs, and I am getting to have a lot of input with that.
So I reach out to our Parks and Recs department as well. I am collaborating right now with our new health services coordinator in our district, who is also our physical education health curriculum person. We are working to create a cycling curriculum for the district as an elective at the high school level. I've been asked to be on a committee with our Parks and Recs to lead future programming decisions and directions that they are, for services they are providing for kids with disabilities in the area. I also serve as vice president on the Allen Sports Association soccer board. 5 years ago, myself and the president of the board helped bring Special Olympics soccer competitions to our town, so that the kids and the teams were able to have competition before they had to go to their classification for their spring games, summer games. And it gave them more of an opportunity to learn the game of soccer, to play as a team. So those are some of the ways that I've been reaching out and collaborating with agencies outside of the school district.
So I'm going to move now to collaboration within your IEP teams. And first off, the first question though I have is, how are you included right now as an AP teacher within the IEP process?
So being included in our IEP team, the process for our IEPs, as the AP specialist in my district, I am expected to do all of the assessment. I am expected to do all of the goal writing. I attend as many ARD meetings or IEP meetings as possible. I do try to not go to some if everything is going well, the parents are excited about what's going on with their kid and they have no questions or concerns for me, so that I can spend more time with my other kids. I also do all data tracking to make sure that the goals and objectives are being achieved, and if not, then what do we need to do? I do all the progress reporting for APE, whether I'm doing consulting or direct service. So I'm fully engaged within the entire IEP process within my district. I'm also expected to collaborate with the PTs and OTs, speech therapists, make sure that we are not reporting contradictory things, because if we are, then we need to look at why are we seeing contradictory things? What can we do better to make sure that the kid is able to generalize a skill from APE service to physical therapy to occupational therapy. We look at, is it just the setting that we're in when we're doing the service? Is it the person? Is it the directions, the verbal directions you're giving? Is it the need for more physical assistance? So we are expected to look at all of that stuff to make sure that if we are reporting contradictory things to the parents on progress, that we understand why we're seeing contradictory things and we can explain that to the parents. It's not a parent looking at it and saying, these people do not know what they're doing.
The Den ISD, it looks very similar to Allen, and but we're required to be at every annual. We have to be there, which most people would think I was crazy for saying this, but as a first-year teacher, I actually like that because I want to get to know these parents and build a relationship. And we send out a packet at the beginning of the year to get parent feedback on what they want, but actually seeing those parents face to face and having those conversations with them in those meetings, it's invaluable and it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I would agree. My first 2 years, I went to as many ARDs as I could, or as many IEPs. I got to make sure I'm using language that everybody will understand.
So, real quick on that, though, I was going to ask you just real quick, because ARD, I believe, is specific only to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, ARD means admissions, review, and dismissal.
I thought you were going to get them there for a second.
And one of them.
I thought you'd been here long enough to get them now. Yeah. Admission, review, and dismissal meetings, which are the IEP meetings for us in Texas.
I've heard both, though. It's interchangeable, right?
It is, but you will almost, for people that have spent their entire careers in Texas, you will hear ARD meetings. People that have come from other states at some point in their either educational career or their teaching career will usually refer to them as IEP meetings a lot.
Now, Gobin, earlier you were talking about how you collaborate with your IEP team, speech therapist, OTs, PTs. You have so many people that can be a part of that IEP team. But I want a little bit more on that of like maybe some specifics, as in like what are your collaboration pieces that you're able to do with somebody that works in speech? What does PE and speech have to do with each other? What is it happening with your special ed or gen ed teacher? Like what does that look like?
In collaborating with our PE teacher or let's say the special ed teacher, a lot of times the main thing that I'm going in to talk to them about is to make sure that what I see when I go into the gymnasium or I go into the classroom, what I see the kid performing is actually what they're doing when I'm not there as well. So I want to make sure that this is consistent skill performance. It is generalized, so it's not just when Coach Johnson shows up the student is able to do this with a PE teacher or with an instructional assistant that may be there that day, assisting in class, or even the special education case manager teacher at the time. When I'm looking with physical therapists and occupational therapists, we're looking at the fine motor skills, the problems that the student is having with object control. Is it due to fine motor skills? Is the OT working on these fine motor skills at the same time that I am? And do we need to double up on that, or can we combine a goal, collaborate on that goal so that it's taking care of that child's fine motor needs at the same time without them having to do the same exercise for different reasons 2 or 3 times a day?
Another person I really like to collaborate with is my special ed teachers, and I have developed a relationship with one of my teachers who's really interested in just making her classroom more physically active. So she's asked me for different activities, like crossing the midline activities. I brought in an It Rock set. We have it set up around her room. And I introduced her to some yoga apps because she has one kid that is a behavioral challenge. But when you put an iPad in front of him with a yoga app, he is just something else. So we work together to find things that work for all her students and just to make her classroom more physically active. And in turn, that benefits the kids on my caseload too, because they're getting extra practice.
Agreed. Yeah, and when I'm able to, when I time it just right, and we can meet up with the music therapist, that's always a good time to collaborate with another therapist, because music and movement, they go together naturally, and kids will move in ways that you never thought you would ever see them move when you add some music to the mix. And that song and that guitar and other instruments that the kids play just makes a huge difference in getting the skills out of the kids.
Awesome. All right, so within that IEP process, something that gets forgotten a lot as well is that we also have the parent and the student that are supposed to be part of that team as well. So it doesn't have to be specifically the IEP, but how are you including collaboration with, one, the parents, and two, how are you collaborating with the student when you're planning or you're in your jobs? How are you doing that?
Well, I'll start off with parents. I call my parents, I try to call them before I write my goals. So I'll have an idea in mind of what I want to do for the kid, and then I'll call the parents and see what they think. Because if they're invested in that goal writing process, then they're more likely to work with the kid outside of school, leading them to be more successful. And it's just another way to build those relationships, which will lead to their kid getting more involved in everything, in the programs we develop through Parks and Rec, hopefully, in their PE classes. When a parent's invested, they're going to fight for you and be on your side, which is so important in any district. With the students, I'll just tell a story about one of my kids in particular. We found out, like, the first couple weeks of working with each other that we both loved dance. And this girl, she didn't like PE. She really wasn't into physical activity at all. And knowing she has spina bifida, so I knew she needed to work on her balance. And I found ways to create balance goals that we could incorporate into dance, so we can both have fun working on that goal together. And she has been so engaged in all of our sessions, and we're actually going to get her into a dance program outside of school, all because we created this goal that she was invested in.
That's really good.
Well, see, there, all the collaborating I've done, and I found out something new already. So you can collaborate all the time and still find out something new. That's great. I try to involve the parents as much as possible. I try to talk to them a minimum of once to 2 times per 9 weeks grading period, just because I want to make sure that when I call them, we're on the same page and we're going the same direction. Because, like Heather said, if you're pulling in one direction and the parents pulling in another direction, or they have other ideas and goals for their kid, you're not going to achieve the same results as if you're both pulling in the same direction. So involving the parents early and often to make sure that they're updated on the progress and what's going on, and that allows you to move forward so much faster if you have a kid that's achieving their goals, because now you can be working on the next thing and the next step. Cycling, like you said earlier, Heather, is a big request from a lot of parents. They just want their child to be able to go out and ride their bicycle in the neighborhood like every other kid. So working on cycling skills, getting a little ergometer to have the kid just work on the pedaling mechanism, that it just works wonders for those kids. The kids involved in the planning, at least in my experience, really doesn't start being consistent until the kid is an older elementary, middle school, high school kid, where they've matured enough that their parents start respecting their opinion about what they want to do and what they want to achieve. And then the parent usually will start bringing their child to the IEP meetings at that point. I always, once a child is able to express to me what they like, what they don't like, in whatever manner that they express that, then I will start reaching out to them before I talk to the parents about new goals to see what they like and what they want to do. What are your goals in sports or just PE or outside of rec and leisure activities? And then I will contact the parents, because now I have an idea if everybody's on the same page, and I can suggest and try to get the parent to see what their kid is seeing and what their kid's desires are, so that hopefully they are doing something together outside of school as well, because that's going to increase your chances of success in achieving those annual goals and objectives if mom and dad and the child are working on the same skills outside of school. And that goes back to what Heather was saying about being invested in what you're doing.
All right. That was awesome to have Gobin and Heather talk about collaboration and their process and their programs. Next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about collaboration and also talk a little bit more about Gobin and Heather and why they chose the field of APE. So everyone have a great day. Enjoy May. And I know a lot of us are starting to wrap up the summer program. So really excited to have some of that free time, and I hope everyone's planning their field days right now and having an awesome end of the year. All right, take care.